This conference will now be recorded.
It is 6:00 p.m. Thursday, April the 14th. We are convening a meeting of the Rome City Council. We will have an executive session at 6. We'll return at 7 for our regular session. We have a quorum present, and we're going to go into executive session according to designated section of Texas Government Code, Annotated Chapter 551, and we are looking under Section 551071, Consultation with Attorney, 551072, Deliberation regarding real property, Section 551074, Personnel, and Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development. And in this instance, it is to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the city has received from a business process that the city seeks to locate, stay, or expand in or near the city, in which the city is conducting economic development negotiations. It is 6:02 p.m. and we are going from a regular meeting to executive session to return at 7 p.m.
This conference will now be
Whenever
recorded.
Sean punches the right button. Are we on, Sean? Okay. It is 7:00 p.m. on Thursday, April the 14th, 2022. We are out of the executive session. We are opening back into our regular session at 7 p.m. We are going to call it to order and establish a quorum, which we do have. And we have one item from executive session that we will address now.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proclamation in support of our city administrator.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion passed. And Michelle, do you have a proclamation to read?
Yes. We will not lead this city by social media posts. We are committed to professional analysis and conduct. A thorough evaluation of Ms. Northrup's credentials, qualifications, experience, and references at the time of hire and now, along with her performance for the past 2 years, lead us in continued support of her public service and leadership in the past, present, and belief for the future of Rome.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to we have Reverend Van Zant here to do our invocation. So I'll stand for that, please.
If you'll join me in an attitude of prayer. Dear Lord, I pray that you'll please us allow this session to be governed and guided by you, and I pray that you'll please us allow us to have divine wisdom, and I pray that you'll please us be with all those who are present. I pray that you'll please us be with the city council members, the mayor, and I pray that you'll please us be with the city administrator, Lord, and I pray that you'll please us allow us to come to decisions that are for the utmost good of Rome, Texas, Lord, and I pray that you'll please us allow us to always be appreciative of our government, but also those who are in order over the city of Rome, such as those who are our first responders. And I pray that you'll please us put your hand of protection around them, put your hand of protection around the fire chief. I pray that you'll please us put your hand of protection around the police chief as well. And I pray that you'll please us allow this city to prosper and just allow us to become community minded. Lord, I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And we have announcements, or we want to go with public comments. Shayna, do you have public comments to share with us?
Yes, I do. The first one is from Lisa Ann Wilson. It says, springtime is here and it's time for another Rome election. April 25th is the first day for early voting. Do your patriotic duty. Please make sure you get out and vote. Our founding fathers fought for our freedom. As intended, our right to vote falls in line. Please get out and vote, as the First Amendment and free speech allows you this privilege. This town is on the verge of so much growth if we simply move in a frugal, positive direction. Also bring life back to our city with events, festivals for which we used to be known for. Rome was famous for those. Citizens want and need to have fun again. Citizens are deserving of a city with limitless possibilities and limited debt. Get out and express yourselves and start the ball rolling for a trim and slim Rome. Hopefully by voting you can help get our city back on the right track, which has been needed for so long. Unity is important. You be the change. See the city webpage for dates, times, and locations for voting. Thanks for your time. Lisa Ann Wilson. And next we have Deborah B Craft.
I'm Deborah B Craft, 360 West 2nd Street. I wanted to speak on the facilities. After watching all the wildfires and the tornadoes, I don't know if y'all had given this any thought. I know y'all want a mega complex, one place for one-stop shopping. And it's a grand idea, and a lot of big cities are doing it. We're not a big city. But have you thought about the fact that if a tornado leveled that building, we would have absolutely nowhere to run the city from? We would lose our fire, our police, our water, and our city hall, all at the same time. Right now, the police could double up with the fire department, or the fire could double up with the police. City hall could move back over here if that building got. So it might be something just for y'all to take into consideration, that separate buildings rather than one big building. Because, look at Ranger. They lost a lot of buildings. Aurora lost everything they had. They had no place to have meetings, no place to work out of. So it was just something that came to mind, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah.
That's it.
That's it?
Yes, ma'am.
My goodness, okay. Well, I have, Cynthia feeds me stuff to announce. And first thing she put on the list here is City Hall is closed tomorrow for Good Friday. I think that meant a whole lot to a lot of people. And so Cynthia made it our number one announcement. April 25th is the first day of early voting. Look at the Rome webpage. You'll see where, when, and how on the thing. And if you have any questions, give City Hall a call. The next council meeting will be April the 28th. And one thing we've gotten some feedback on this week is political signs being placed in personal property without permission. I don't think y'all guys would be doing that, but if you have done any of that, please pick them up on the thing. And Saturday, we're having an Easter egg hunt, and it's not a city event, but it will be in the Rome Family Park from 12 to 2. Bunches of Easter eggs, whole lot of stuffed animals, and a free raffle for even more stuffed animals. So we need everybody there, and anybody that wants to throw eggs out, do anything, please show up, 9:30 or so. We need all the help we can get. That's all I have, and then we'll close the session and move into a public hearing. And it is 7:08, Thursday, April the 14th, 2022. The public hearing is regarding a request to replat final plat property currently described as being legal acres 0.321, Lot 1 and 2, Block 2, Subdivision, BC Rome Edition, also described as located at 290 Aurora Street. Do we have anyone here, or have you got any comments back to read? There's one in the packet. Okay,
Yes, we had some in the packet. We didn't
Uh-huh.
get any additional comments.
there's no additional.
Correct.
Okay. And those two were favorable. One from Raymond Burns, one from the Rome Library. So do I hear a motion that we approve this? Right. Okay, Sam is giving me my what for. I moved on. We can't vote on it yet. So we'll reconvene back into our regular agenda, which is 7:09, April 14th, 2022. The first thing we're going to deal with is old business, discussion and any necessary action regarding updates to the animal ordinance. Cynthia, that be you.
So you have the updated with the latest updates on the animal ordinance. And if you look through here after your comments in the last meeting, we went back to taking out the word fowl and we just kept chicken. So as it was initially describing chickens, and basically limiting it to 12, no matter what type, because as it was written before, it was, I believe, 4 of each type, and there's like 50 types out there. So that was taken back to that. The council seemed like most of the council wanted. We did take and align the dog, the references to the number of dogs in the ordinance to 3 instead of 5, because one place it said 3 and one place it said 5. So initially when we brought it back, we were going with the 5, but we took it down to 3 after council comments. They changed, if you look on section 2, and you go down to age, what they changed it back to the large grazing animals. I mean, you still have the large grazing animals, but they changed it back to less than 2 acres instead of 1 acre. If you remember, that was the second revision. But what they did, if you look on item H, section 2H, and basically what this does, it allows for grandfathering in current people that have goats on less than 2 acres. So pretty much those folks out in Bywell would be grandfathered in. There would be an administrative process that they would have 60 days to come to City Hall and apply for that with proof of written consent from their adjacent property owners to agreeing to the possession of non-conforming grazing animals. So they basically have to get their neighbors' approval. And then identification and the number of non-conforming grazing animals on the property, and a description of each non-conforming grazing animal and any identifying markers. I mean, what we would do is we would have them submit pictures and keep those on file. Now that would only be for the life of that particular animal, so it wouldn't be in perpetuity, the grandfathering clause. So that's how they went back and addressed that after listening to council. Carvin, do you want to, I believe you're online, do you want to elaborate on any of that?
I think you described it pretty
Or council, do you have any
accurately.
questions?
Cynthia, I do, and I'm probably reading it.
Well,
Like I
Carvin,
should
Carvin
not.
is, I'm sorry, Carvin's, are you muted, Carvin?
I hope I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Well,
I'm not showing that I'm muted.
He's talking, but we can't hear him. Is it muted?
We can hear him.
I think y'all may be muted there.
No, we still can't hear you. Well, hopefully I can answer the question.
You want me to go next and wait for Carvin?
Well, go ahead and he can call in while we're working on this. Maybe he can call in. But what's your question? Let me see.
Okay, on section 2A, no large or small animals may be kept on a lot or tract less than 2 acres in size. Now you get down to E, paragraph E. It says grazing animals shall be kept blah, 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 in compliance with the nuisance standards set forth for any lot or tract of less than 2 acres where animals are kept. Well, I thought we couldn't keep them under 2 acres.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
You get to E and it talks about any lot or tract of less than 2 acres where animals are kept. Is that conflict? Is A and E in conflict?
So that's just saying that the ones that are grandfathered in, that's what he is going to apply to. So
Okay, so it's not mostly we want 2 acres.
right, everything else that's not grandfathered is going to be 2 acres. And once I think in the statement, there's also, I was just reading it, but basically after the sale or death of the animal, they cannot bring back any more animals. Once they're gone, they're gone. You can't replace them.
Well, and that's
For the
under
grandfather.
H, right? It
Yeah.
follows H.
How can they be grandfathered in if we've never allowed goats before?
That's a question for Carvin. That's how they wrote this.
So,
But let me to answer on the A. I mean, that is what the current ordinance states. So
we want 2 acres more or less starting today.
well, and that's what
this is.
it's
signed.
basically keeping the current.
hold on, should we wait to see if Carvin, because
It's
I think let's see if we can get Carvin back on. We're asking a lot of questions before.
okay. I'm
Hold on.
I'm answering A because that's an easy one.
Hold on, is he on?
Am I
Are you
on?
there, Carvin? No.
I'm talking.
So I have a question, not for Carvin.
I know, but we're just getting too far ahead of him.
But Carvin doesn't answer it. So on E, I could understand where people
We
would
can
get
hear him.
confused if they were like, oh, well, it says less than 2 acres. I can understand that where they could get confused. We might want to put something in there for, I don't know, just specify it's for right now,
Yeah.
not future.
Well, we can send it back and clarify that. I mean, definitely. I mean, I would.
E,
Yes,
E
yeah,
needs to specify that it's for, if we're going to allow goats or non-conforming grazing animals, E needs to specify that because it's kind of confusing.
Okay,
Like Mayor said, it's confusing.
okay. Sorry, that's the reason why I said that y'all are getting ahead while I'm asking Carvin to come in.
Cynthia, are you on?
So we can clarify that on E with clarifying language. Okay. But
Okay, go to section 4. Maximum number of dogs. You know, we have 5, 3, whatever in the past. Would anybody that has more than 5 dogs, would they be grandfathered in?
No.
no. I mean, what we had before, remember, in one section it said 5, and in one section it said 3.
Right.
So what we were trying to do with this was not only address the goat issue, we were trying to get rid of inconsistencies within the ordinance. And so that's when the first time we brought it back, we went with 5. So we made both references 5. But after the discussion last time we discussed this, It seemed to be the consensus of council to take it to 3 and not 5.
But you can't go into someone's house now and say, I'm sorry, you have 5 dogs. You need to get rid of the 2. And it says nothing in here about
Agreed.
cats. So, I mean, we can't punish someone because our last ordinance said they could have 5. So,
Well, the last ordinance was confusing because it said 5
Right,
and
but what
3.
are you gonna do?
But that's up to you
Yeah,
all.
so
I mean,
what are
if
we
you
gonna
guys
do
want
if
That's
to,
somebody
why you're
has
the
5 dogs?
if you want to
Gestapo.
say it's 5, I mean,
Well, no, I mean,
that's what we did.
But you just said nobody will be grandfathered in. But I mean, we need to say that they're going to be grandfathered in. I mean, but we didn't have an ordinance prior that for the goats that said in here a minute ago when I asked, but now for the dogs that we're not going to allow people that had more, 5 dogs or 4 dogs.
I would think that
So.
we would be able to I mean, that
Grandfather
people have 5. Yeah, I wouldn't think that you
Right.
you got to get rid of their dog.
No, you
Yeah,
gotta go
can't get rid
take
of
your
anybody's
dog to
dog
the
and we can't
pound.
punish them now. So
Duh.
we can't send them a violation.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, but
So-
part, we're not, I mean,
We're not here to punish someone for their dog. So, and it does not say anything about their cats. So that's something I think we need to look into is section 4, for cats. And if we do change it to 3, grandfather in, the 5. So other council members, what do you think about section, so we can go ahead and, what do you think about section 4? Grandfathering in the 5 dogs and changing it to 3 and having 3 cats. I mean, that's something, I don't know. We can
I feel
think
like
about.
that's a lot of records that you're going to have to
Yeah,
keep
I
for
mean,
all the dogs.
I mean, the thing that was doable about this is literally, no more than 4 people with the goats. If, we haven't identified who all has dogs. I mean, we're still trying to get people, and we have changed our registration. When people come in and register for water, that's when, we get them registering their pets, their dogs and cats. But we still don't have, I mean, I would venture to say we don't have 100% compliance. So, and we don't have,
I believe you have 5% compliance
right.
on the
So,
registration of animals. I know Ashley, you're going to find this crazy. I'm going to have to agree with you that we might want to grandfather in. I do like putting a limit on the number of dogs, but I can't go to someone and say, you have 4 dogs, you have to get rid of 1. Okay? Just like I couldn't go to somebody that had a pet goat and they didn't understand the ordinance, and I can't say you've got to get rid of your pet. Okay? So, if possible, I'd like to go ahead and, like I said, it's crazy that I'm going to be agreeing with you, but I guess the Astros might win the World Series or something.
so let me ask you this. I mean, and so we can go back to Carvin and we can take this back to the table again, but let me ask you this. So I guess I thought I heard consensus that y'all were saying 3 dogs, but if we said 5 dogs and we just made that whole on 5, that would probably cover it.
I think that's a good idea. It's a good compromise.
That was Josh.
Okay.
Does anybody object to that? So we're going to change it to 5.
Do we need to add cats in there? What about cats? Cats isn't listed.
Actually, I'm pretty sure it does say 5 cats in here.
I can't find it.
I couldn't find it when I read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
think
5.
one of the things we need to establish about cats is we've got buku cats that I don't think are being claimed by anyone in this town. And I know we don't have an entire animal control department. Unless, Chief Deebus, you have some hidden department somewhere. Okay. I like that we're trying to put these ordinances together. Enforcing them is going to be virtually impossible. It's really going to come down to people, just doing their best. When it comes to owning a cat, I don't know how you establish the owner of a cat, because a dog will come to its owner. Cats have the mind of their own. I tend to think that maybe the owner of a cat's the person that feeds the cat.
Couldn't we just have it in there just because we're writing an ordinance? I mean, you should just put it in there, cat or dog.
We can
I mean,
add that.
I mean, cat or dog, I mean, you're writing the ordinance, so we don't have to go back to it in a couple of years because somebody asked the question.
We can add that. One thing I would say with that, though, is, and you're right, Councilmember Easton, enforcement is an issue. Typically what happens in cities, and we've talked about this with code enforcement, many times it's you have some proactive enforcement depending on what your resources are, but it's reactive, so it's going to be based on complaints. Now the challenge is when somebody says, well, okay, but I know my neighbor down there's got, 6 cats. How come they, and it's a matter of having the resources to enforce, and it's based on, complaints.
I'm going to agree with you that it's not reasonable for us to try to put an animal control department together right now. The reason I mentioned the feeding of cats is there's been a very long discussion about feral cats in this town.
Yeah.
I had a very good friend out in East Texas. She had a no-kill cat rescue, and she did a lot of studying and a lot of work, and she found out you can eliminate feral cats without killing them. You can have them fixed, and you can return them, but one of the key steps is you cannot feed them, because they will establish their own area and the boundaries of what cats are going to be allowed in that area, of how much food there is. So when we start talking about who owns the cat, I think we might want to put something in there about feeding the cats, because we need to discourage people from feeding the cats, because I've talked to a lot of people and they say you end up feeding not only cats, but possums and raccoons and other various wild animals, and it gets more wild animals coming into our city. Okay, and that's another problem all by itself.
Well, one of the things, and I I've talked to a couple of you about this and was going to be bringing it before you in the budget conversation. A lot of cities, animal control is always a challenge, whether it's, a Dallas or a Fort Worth, or a Rome. So, and there's never enough resources, unfortunately, it seems like. But one thing that many cities do, what you referred to, is catch and release. And so it's, getting the cat, fixing the cat, nipping the ears, releasing them back. But you're right, a step to that is the feeding. And so that is what could be, you would place more enforcement on the feeding of the cats.
Correct. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, and that has some benefits to a community in the sense that keeps the rodent population down, and then it's, the survival of the fittest. The other thing we are looking at, we started some conversations about a year and a half ago, and then COVID hit, but with I believe it's the Apollo Animal Shelter over in Justin, basically trying to partner with them for some animal control services, because the county right now is pretty much defining all cats as feral, and it's hard to say whether a cat's feral or not. Because a lot of people have cats and then let them run outside. So, and they're not taking them, and so that's a challenge for us when that's who we partner with for animal control. And if they do take them, more than likely they're going to be euthanized on short order. So, I would love to bring back at some point, and maybe it's in connection with this, but I'd hate to keep this tied up since we've already been doing it for 3 times. But I'd love to bring back, that a policy on catch and release. And we could put the feeding part in this that would already be in place.
I think it would be hard to put the feeding here. That's a community involvement, but I think putting the cats in here, that is to
to someone having it in their home, because if someone had 10 cats in their home, and then say if it's not, say if you had, one person had 10 and we had to, if it's, somebody had to come in their home to clean it up, something happened to them and they had like 20 cats in their home, then we have it in our ordinance and we say, no, I'm sorry, you need to get rid of them. I mean, there's certain options. I think we need to add cats in. You keep
Cynthia,
going, you keep talking about, about feeding the cats. We need to have community involvement to go out there and help with the citizens in certain areas.
Well, that's what Cynthia was saying.
But I mean, right now, until we can get the company from Justin and the cost for the city to help pay for it, then maybe we can all get the city involvement to go out and help with the feral cat.
What she was saying, though, is the enforcement is going to have to be on complaints from the citizens. The city enforcement, yes.
Citizens that contacted her, because when I posted it, there were citizens that contacted her that said, that they're about the cats. I mean, there was a lot of cats that were in Crown Point.
I have been contacted by one gentleman. When you asked me, I hadn't been contacted by him, but he did contact me after that. So, and I have talked with him, and I told him, that, in fact, I thought maybe he would show up tonight because I did tell him that this was on the agenda, so he could certainly come and talk to the council.
I have a question on back to the goats and stuff on section 2, on to grazing animals B. A or B, which one is it? I didn't know which one. Could you please explain the difference between A and B? Would you just go and just,
yes,
please tell me. So just tell me the difference between just reason why.
Okay. So A is saying that there's no large or small grazing animal may be kept on a lot or tract less than 2 acres in size. B comes back and says for a lot or tract exceeding the minimum acreage, which is 2 acres, the limitation on the number of the grazing animals permitted on that lot or tract will be. So basically, I mean, it probably could be a little bit clearer, but it's at lots that are over 2 acres. So if you have a 3 acre, then this 1 and 2 would apply. If it's over 2 acres.
On the 1 and 2, are 1 and 2 mutually exclusive? So that if you had 4 acres, you could have 4 large grazing animals, but you could not also have 4 small grazing animals? Or if you had 4 small grazing animals, could you also have the large grazing animals?
The way I read it is not mutually exclusive.
So it's an or, not an and? Fair enough.
So you can't mix them.
Did I ever get any sound back?
Where we're coming from.
That's all I'm asking is, I actually don't have a preference either way. It's just that if we're going to knit, let's pick.
So it sounds like we're going to need to take this back.
Well, I'm thinking we're pretty much in agreement on everything that we've said, so we can pass it pursuant to everything we've suggested being added.
Has something to say, because when I looked at the goats, you could have 10 goats per acre. So, I mean, when I was looking at the USDA and everything else, so which one what are we all talking about?
Well, that's exactly my question. The way that I've read this, and maybe I didn't read it correctly and need some help here, but we've got folks that have goats today, and it's my understanding that the folks that already have those goats, that their lot size is about 1 acre. And so we're going to grandfather them in, but the way that this reads, that once those animals are either sold off or pass away, then they're not going to be able to have a goat.
Correct.
Is that really what we're trying to achieve here? We've got some people that they're not raising goats necessarily to eat or for their milk. They have them as pets.
Followed by the pound
So
or
we're
hash
saying,
sign.
well, you can have cats and you can have dogs, but you sure can't have a goat as your pet. And I find that to be sad because there's folks out over there that they're not raising them so they can eat them. It's their pet.
Understood, but the thing is, prior to their misconception of moving in here with their goats, they believed they could have goats. We have an ordinance that says no goats. Okay, so I don't want to have some kind of a blanket. Now everybody can have goats because some people were misled by their realtor. Okay, I know of at least one person that moved here because we have a no goats ordinance.
So you're saying that the people that had here, you're only you're only in favor for the goats, for the ones that have the goats, and then you're not in favor for anybody else coming in for goats.
With less than 2 acres.
If they have less than 2 acres, that's correct.
But there's nobody in our city that has less than. Oh wait, sorry. I guess there is. Sorry. So everybody in Ellison, Bylaw, so they can have goats. So
No, because it says
2 acres. So no, so nobody in this town.
I mean, if we have other information that says, I looked up how much, generally speaking, acreage is adequate for how many goats or sheep. It fell in that category, and it was something to do with the U.S. government. It was their standard, if you will, and they said 8 per acre, and so we have less than that. We have half of that in this particular situation. So I find that difficult to say, oh, well, grandfather, in the 4 goats that you have an acre, you have more than enough to sustain them, and you consider them to be your pets. And then we say, well, when they die off, then you're out of luck because you can't have any more goats. That's what we're saying here in this ordinance. And I just find whenever it is their pet of choice, then why does it have to be a dog? Why does it have to be a cat? And also, I think that's a sad choice for the folks that they want a goat as their pet, just like a little hedgehog or whatever the heck, So we're saying, well, here's your list of pets that you can have in this town, but you can't love a goat.
So should we include possums and armadillos and, I mean, where do you draw the line? Right now, we've got a line drawn of no goats. And I don't want to change that ordinance because some people were misled. Okay? If we were going to discuss changing the ordinance, then we need to discuss changing that ordinance completely independent of whether someone has goats or not. We need to stop and say, do we want a town where people can have goats on any neighborhood lot? Okay? I mean, that's what we need to discuss. Do you want to just start allowing everyone in the neighborhood to have goats?
I do think an acre is reasonable.
I think 2 acres is reasonable.
I'm just voicing my opinion. I'm
Me
not
too.
gonna argue with you. The other points of questions that I had is I wanted to be sure that the 5 dogs were grandfathered in, which you've already brought up. And then it's my understanding that cats and dogs are supposed to be registered with the city, and they need to have their immunizations. So any other animals that we have in the city limits, are we going to require that those animals are registered and are immunized? I gotta slaughter that word, but have what they need to be healthy and to keep the area safe and healthy as well. So I don't know what the policy has ever been about how you look after the health of uh, small grazing or large grazing on 2 or more acres. But I'm just saying that was a question I'm asking. Is do we require them to be registered, and do we require them to be taken care of health-wise, just like cats and dogs?
Well, since the ordinance before, when we first started, the ordinance was 2 acres. And so there weren't too many homes inside the city limits that met 2 acres. I'm not sure if there's any I think there's some that are, over 1, but I don't know that there's any over 2 in Bywell or Ellis. So starting from that premise, I would say no, we haven't. Now, the other thing, though, again, it really comes down to an honor system. So let's even just talk about cats and dogs, what we do have in place, because they are required to register them and provide proof of their shots. We have instituted processes at City Hall where we try to catch them, meaning filter them in when they're coming to us and they need something from us, water, namely. But prior to that, having the resources to go house by house and say, have you registered your dogs? We haven't, we don't have the resources. So, it truly does come down to the honor system, and we have to hope that people, and we're asking them point blank, it's on the application for water, and we try to catch them there, and we just started that a couple of years ago. But there's not an easy answer, and we'd have to have a whole lot more personnel if we were gonna.
That's an enforcement issue.
Right.
Right. My final question is that, we make these requirements for them to register. One of the things with the catch and release is those animals are usually chipped. And we actually adopted one. He was just wandering the neighborhood, and we started to feed him, and so he moved right in, And but we didn't know with his little ear, we thought he'd just been in a fight, And so when we took him in to get his shots and all that, they go, well, let's just go ahead and scan him. And there was the chip. And so I got on the phone and because they could read the chip, and it turned out the city of Fort Worth had caught him, neutered him, and released him over in Rome.
Oh.
So, which I'm not fussing about that because he was a fabulous cat, and I miss him. But I was just wondering if we might want to say when people register their dogs and their cats that we prefer that they be chipped, because then if they do get loose and somebody catches them, then we could really know who they belong to, other than trying to identify pictures. How many black cats can you identify with a photo? And so I was just thinking maybe we could try that. Enforcement is not totally possible, but it could be helpful.
Well, you're right. A lot of times that's what, when you do have an animal shelter in a city, they will, while they're spaying or neutering them, they will chip them as well. So that's common practice in that
But
program.
I'm just saying, as folks that have animals, they register them, that the city wants them to have their animals chipped. Because if they're out loose and if somebody calls us and one of our officers goes out and picks up, then we'd know quickly who that belonged to.
Well,
If they
and
were chips.
yes, I think we can. I don't know how effective it will be, because some
Me
people
either.
may say, okay, my cat is chipped, and they turn in, they get this, they get a tag or a sheet or whatever. But do we know if they actually took the next step of registering that? Because then they have to go online, excuse me, and register it.
Again, Cynthia, it's an enforcement thing. Just like the simple step of registering your dog. I remember when we registered our dogs, it was, I think we were the 4th and 5th people in the entire city that year. Okay, I mean, so I'd say well under 5% of the dogs in this town. So even though these are very nice things that Councilwoman Priest is suggesting, it's people are just going to have to decide to do it themselves or not. I don't see any possible way for us to enforce it.
Well, maybe if every time that it would just be Julie and her bubbly personality, just when they come in to pay their water bill, just saying, hey, can you register your pet? And I know that she probably wouldn't mind, but just, doing the same thing, just register your pet. So, have you registered your pet with us? So, I don't think that she would mind another conversation with them. So, but let's just try that one. But I think grandfather them in, adding cats to it. Section 4, and is Carvin back on the line? Does we need to ask him some questions?
Carvin, are you on the phone now?
I am on the phone, and I've tried several different ways, but I can't seem to get any video.
If you're talking, we can't hear.
I am on the phone. Can you hear me?
Marvin, the listeners can hear you. I'm not sure that the council can.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm going to hang up and try again.
Well, I know there may still be some questions. I mean, the one outstanding question is why they can be grandfathered. Commissioner, Councilwoman Majors. So, I mean, that's an outstanding question, but I guess staff needs more feedback to figure out how you guys want us to proceed. Do you want us to take it back to the drawing board one more time? Are we mostly in agreement with 5 dogs, 5 cats, grandfathering the dogs?
I feel like it's good with the changes that we've all suggested, but I know that like Councilmember Priest is having issues, so I don't know.
As far as the 1 acre, 2 acre, I know, Ms. Priest, you said the government allows 8 per acre, but I'm willing to bet that they're looking at a full acre. So by the time you put a house and a garage and a driveway, shed, swimming pool, you're no longer at a full acre. And so when we're saying here 2 acres before you can have animals, even then you're not going to have 2 full acres. So I'm going to have to stick with the 2 acre rule, just because even at the 2 acres, they're not going to have the full acres with all the stuff on the property. So you got to make sure that your animals have enough room. So.
Yeah, I just tried again.
Okay, Cynthia, I'm confused. Where are we going?
Well,
except this big circle.
I mean, I see some irreconcilable differences.
I know Sam,
so we might just have to take a vote on what we got.
Yeah, Sam mentioned just going ahead and passing this with the changes that mentioned. I think the outstanding question is the lane and the 1 and 2 acres. So.
Yeah, did you ever get me?
Am I on?
Oh.
Okay. I'm not, action sometimes is about consensus. And
we can hear you,
everybody
Carvin.
can't have all of their way. My concern was the folks that already have goats and they love them, and that that was just their pet, you know. And so what we've done here, if we will grandfather them in, it will give them time to adjust. And I know that they're going to be terribly disappointed. Um, you know, it's not new news that when the city council makes hard choices that affects people in a way they don't want to be affected, it's not something that we take, um, uh, lightly. But we can't make everybody happy all the time. And so I'm not going to vote against that. I just point out that uh, those folks over in Bywell that have the goats are going to be sad that they're not going to be able in the future, once the grandfather is no longer applicable to them, that they're not going to be able to have the pet of their choice. And so I'm not going to vote against that. I do want to see, I would prefer that we have a grandfather clause for the goats so that this can happen over time in a reasonable way. And I want to be sure that we grandfather going from 5 dogs to 3. Folks need that time to adjust and plan emotionally with this downsizing.
I think the compromise there was just leaving it at 5, and then you would have to do the grandfathering of the dogs.
Oh, I didn't hear that, but okay. That's 2 more than I would want to manage, but.
Is that what I mean, that was what I understood.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect, is leaving it at 5, adding cats in, asking Carvin, can we grandfather in the goats? I'm not happy with if they are grandfathered in. If
Can
they
you
are
guys hear me?
grandfathered in, letting them, once they pass away, like the one resident that came and spoke, that her one goat that had 3 legs that was on the verge of dying, and when it dies, she can't have another one. That's really sad to say. And, it's sad to say that the ones are sitting, on this board that's election time, and I am going to speak that because it's my mouth. That's something I can say, but, it's election season, so, but that is not nice that you can't, you can say, once your animal dies, I'm sorry, you can't have another one. That's not how, I'm a pet lover. So, Sam, Josh, Mayor Pro Tem, what do you think about that? If your animal, if it was your dog, because this person loves it like her dog, what would you say if one is your dog died, you can't have another dog? Please tell me this.
I completely understand what you're saying. However, the ordinances were already in place that you could not have goats on less than 2 acres. So they were misinformed when
You couldn't have a dog.
The ordinance was already in place that we could not have these type of animals on less than 2 acres. So we are actually working with these individuals so that they can keep what they have. We're just saying that we're going to further enforce the ordinance that was already there and amend it to work with them. And then going forward, you're going to have to follow the ordinances. I'm sorry that you were misinformed. Unfortunately, there are laws in place and we do need to enforce those.
You asked Carvin if the ordinance was never in place to allow 4 goats, can we grandfather in? Sorry, is Carvin on?
I'm trying to get on, but I don't think I'm coming through.
Can we put the phone up to Mike or
well,
can
we're getting
he?
feedback. I mean, we can try to do that again, but we were getting feedback. She's wanting to know why we can grandfather the goats.
If it was never in our ordinance.
It's in our ordinances that you can't have goats.
Correct. So.
And so we're now modifying the ordinance. And we're reiterating you can't have goats, but we're providing a grandfather clause for people that currently have them.
Maybe instead of a grandfather clause, it would be an exception. for that. I don't know, you know.
Well, right, that's what it is. It's an
But
exception. I mean,
what
but
she's saying is we never had approval in the first place.
Correct.
So how could you grandfather in if they shouldn't have had? I mean, it's a play on words.
Cynthia, I tried calling in again. Hello?
Okay, so I'll answer that question. In H, so it doesn't use the word, we use the word grandfathering very loosely, okay? But if you look at H, it says, if on the effective date of this ordinance, a property owner maintains grazing animals in excess of the limits herein established on property that does not meet the minimum acreage requirements, non-conforming grazing animals, that property owner may maintain said non-conforming grazing animals upon submission of the following. So we're not using the word grandfathering, we're saying how and why. That's how and that's why. Because on the date of the effective date of this ordinance going into effect, that's how.
Okay.
That's correct, Cynthia.
Sorry.
Hello?
So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we pass this ordinance with pursuant to the changes that we've discussed.
We need to see if Carmen, if we've said anything wrong with Carmen.
Unfortunately, we're not being able to communicate, but I'll make sure that
Cynthia,
we make
can you
sure
hear
that
me on the
everything's
phone?
legal with these things in there. And as I'm understanding them, well, the motion's been made. Let's get a second before I jump in there. Sorry.
Marvin, we hear
Okay.
you as listeners.
So,
Yeah.
we're
I'll
going
try.
instead of grandfathering in the dogs, we're keeping it. We're just going to make everything 5. Okay, cats are 5, and everything else. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Am I still muted?
Well, and also changing word, that one paragraph, what was it? The confusing paragraph E.
Oh, yeah,
Section 2.
clarifying. Sorry, I did have that note here. So
Is it B?
clarifying E.
Oh, E.
Clarifying
am I
E.
still muted?
So we can do that, yes.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor and a second. Any more discussion before we call for a vote? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ordinance is approved with the changes as discussed. We're moving now to the regular agenda and new business. The first item on new business is item H. It is discussion and any necessary action regarding the request to replat, final plat, property being legal acres .0.321, lot 1 and block 2, subdivision BC Rome addition, also described as 290 Aurora Street. And we have 2 responses in the positive from the letters that were sent out. Anybody want to discuss this anymore?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
What did the Planning and Zoning Commission say? What's their recommendation?
Recommended approval.
Okay, and they have met all the restrictions. Then since this is just a ministerial issue, I move that we pass this.
I listened to PNC, so I second it.
Okay, so all in favor? Anyone opposed? So that one's gone straight forward. Okay. Chief DeBus, you are on. Discussion and update regarding Operation Slowdown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Mason. So Operation Slowdown is a grant-funded tech stop program that allows us to use overtime that's grant-funded to increase our enforcement efforts to target speed-related enforcement to lower our crashes. Our crashes are going up exponentially. In 2019, we worked 105 crashes. In 2020, it went to 149. Last year was 157, and this year we're already on pace for 196 crashes. That takes a lot of effort from my guys to work those. They're often, especially the speed-related crashes, are horrific, sometimes fatal. And by participating in Operation Slowdown, we hope to put a dent in that. As a former commander and sergeant over a traffic unit, I could see the ratio of crashes to enforcement was correlated. The more enforcement we did, the fewer crashes we worked. I believe we can have a little bit of an effect on that here if we do that as well. What this will allow is 48 hours of overtime in the month of June, where we will have an officer come in on an overtime basis that will target speed enforcement here in the city of Rome. That, like I said, is grant funded, so it would be refunded by TxDOT at 80%. So I will take any questions.
What do you need from us?
Just a
Well, we need approval that we submit the grant and that you basically authorize me to execute those.
I got one question before you do that, Sam. Are there requirements that y'all have to fulfill to be eligible for this grant, such as you have to 50% on the highway, 50% in town, or?
No, the grants aren't nearly as specific as they used to be. This is for speed enforcement, but we can conduct other types of enforcement if we think it will lower crashes. It will be speed emphasized on speed, but we won't ignore another type of offense if we think it will lower our crashes while we're working this detail.
My question is 80% and 20% of what?
Of the cost of overtime.
No. What is that cost? Is what I'm asking.
I don't have those numbers, but we do have it in the budget. We have worked really hard this year to lower our use of overtime, even with the officers that we had come and go. And so I've checked the numbers. We do have it there. So we're in good shape there.
So
I apologize. I don't have those numbers. I gave
no. I wanted to know how that was going to affect the overall budget. But if you have it in your budget,
yes, ma'am.
Then that's clarification I needed.
Yes, ma'am. It's there.
Is each officer going to be capped at a certain amount of overtime per week, or?
We have a limit of that already. Okay. We have a combined off-duty and on-duty, and this would be considered off-duty even though it's enforcement here, and that's 20 hours per week.
Would you be limited to one patrol person?
They could work at the same time. We have enough areas in the city that we could do speed enforcement to. I haven't put together the schedule yet. What we'll do is once you guys say, hey, yeah, this is a good program and we need to be involved, we'll write the grant. Administrator Northrup will sign off on it, and then we will submit it to TxDOT to say we're going to participate.
And you keep saying City of Rome. That also includes 287.
Absolutely.
114. Right?
Yes, ma'am. Our city limits run north-south 287 and then east-west 114.
Right.
And that's primarily where our targeted enforcement will be.
Okay.
Since you were hired, and I really appreciate the job you've done since you were hired,
Thank you.
I've observed that I've seen more officers in neighborhoods and less officers parked on the side of the road writing citations, and I appreciate that because I don't think that the police department's revenue generating body. I want to make sure that this is not going to cause a reduction in patrols that are currently going through the neighborhoods.
I concur. I like the officers spending as much time in the neighborhoods as they do now. That was one of my points of emphasis when I was hired, is I wanted to become part of the community. But what this does is by paying overtime, it brings an officer that's not currently on duty, whose only goal will be to go out and conduct speed-related enforcement to reduce those crashes, freeing up the on-duty officer to continue his neighborhood patrols and interaction with the community.
Sounds wonderful to me.
Any more questions?
So you just need a motion to approve this?
To approve the grant.
You've got it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you so much. And one more thing that I did want to say to the citizens, at home that are watching or may watch this on YouTube, we've gotten some complaints lately that they don't know how to get a hold of us. If you need a police officer in the city of Rome, please call 911. That's what it's there for. It doesn't have to be life or death to use 911. By using 911, it will get an officer to your house or business in the most expeditious fashion, and that way the officers can interact with you and solve whatever problem you're having. So just call 911 and we'll come see you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Tebus.
The next one we've got is discussion and any action regarding fire department bylaw changes. Chief Fitch, it's your turn now.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I do approve of his initiative there because those numbers he is talking about car wrecks is what we are seeing because we're usually with them on the calls. A couple of months ago, you recall that I came to the council and was talking about a change in the bylaws from a percentage-based requirement for our members to more of an hourly-based requirement. In your packet, you should see where it's red marked, and it just shows the difference of going from percentage to hourly, and that was unanimously, well, let me take a step back. Whenever we do a bylaw change, we have to go through the members of the fire department first. And so the officers put these changes together. When I came to y'all 2 months ago, we were running a trial run. We were going to run it for February. And since we couldn't get this in for March's council meeting, we decided to continue the trial run until March, till the end of March, so we could bring it to y'all here at council. During that trial run, it was very successful for us. And so one of the things we have to do is take it to the members to vote on. And it was a unanimous vote that we go to an hourly based instead of staying with a percentage based requirement. So that is what we're bringing to you tonight is the changes in the bylaw. Again, unanimously approved by the members of the department, put together by the officers, and presented to you so we could look for your approval on the changes. Any questions, I'll be glad to help you.
Anybody?
I think y'all know what you're doing, so I motion to approve the changes to the bylaws.
Second. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
We have a motion in 2 seconds to vote on Chief Fitch and his masterpiece here. So everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? So, hey, go for it, sir.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia, I'm trying one other technique to get into the meeting. Did this work?
Okay, we're moving on now to item K, discussion and any necessary action regarding amendment to the Monarch Rome Service Agreement. Sean and Cynthia, y'all take this.
I'll let Sean take it. I did want to just let you know that this has been reviewed by the attorney.
Mayor and Council, Monarch World Vista Community has been a wholesale customer of Rome since 2001. They're requesting an increase of gallons per minute. Currently, it's at 50 gallons a minute. They're requesting 100 gallons a minute. The request is only to meet TCEQ requirements. You have to have so many gallons per minute per connection to meet TCEQ requirements. Currently, all what they currently use right now is 30 gallons a minute. So they're well below their original contract. However, they just got to have a contract to TCEQ saying that they could supply that minimum requirement for per connection. And talking to them, they are built out. They're not going to be building anymore. Part of the contract, they cannot resell the water to any other entity. And so all it is basically a formal thing for them to make sure that TCEQ knows that they can supply the required water that they have. I know that they're improving their storage tanks and all that stuff will help minimize any extra impact and they also have wells, and so they're more reliant on their wells, just us for emergency purposes. And so again, and part of the process of the contract too is that they are going to be required to upgrade the meter vault that is that where we register the meter. They have to install a new meter vault, SCADA, so we can monitor their flow in real time. Oh, and again, it's going to be charged a wholesale rate of 154% of what we purchased from Walnut Creek. It's still the same rate that we've already, the same percentage that we always charge them. And so that rate has not charged. But we charge them 154% from what we buy the water from Walnut Creek.
Is there a downside?
No, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we.
Hold on, I have a question. You can please be quiet out in the audience, please. Okay, so I guess they're going to just, you said for their own wells, correct?
Well, they use their own wells, and they're upgrading their system. And again, like I said, they do use us currently at an average of 30 gallons per minute this last year. Again, they don't see, from talking to their operator, they don't see them actually truly exceeding the 50 gallons a minute. They just need this as a formal for TCEQ. If something does happen to their system, that they could use us at 100 gallons a minute until they get their stuff corrected.
Okay, because whenever I looked at it, I don't know if I did, because how much are we committed to give, okay, never mind, because I was committed to give rolling V and then give.
I don't have rolling V numbers in top of my
Okay.
head. But right now, we have adequate enough supply to
because I was looking at that compared to what we give rolling V. That would be 400 gallons what we're giving rolling V, and then plus this, if we did the math on that, was 300. That would give us 300 gallons short. So is what I kind of came up with it, but I could have been short.
No, we have adequate water
You do
supply
have
for the contracts that we have right now.
Okay. So, all right, that's what I was looking at. So, all right. All right. That was some of them.
Any more discussion?
If they're going to be using their wells.
Yeah.
As long as they're using their wells,
it's more to satisfy TCEQ requirements, and again, they are a wholesale customer of ours, and we want to work with the community, near community, to make sure that they are compliant with TCEQ requirements, and we're helping out a local community to be compliant.
That makes us 1 gallon per minute.
No.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I don't know what. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, I know it's worse.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Sam, did you complete your?
Oh my God, no. She wants to. I want to give Ashley every opportunity. If you'd like to make a motion, there you go.
Okay. And do I hear a second? Okay. So Sean has put his stamp of approval on all this, and we appreciate your work on it, Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, sir. So it goes forward. Now this is kind of good. It's 8:12, and we're moving to the last item, and it's an important item. We have a gentleman here that thinks he wants on the Parks Board. So Cynthia, can you read the application or how this is going down?
Yes, we have Mr. Billy Ray Fitch, who has submitted his application to serve on the park board, and we're very thankful for that. I want you guys to be aware that right now we do have 2 vacancies. One expires in 2022, which is June is when we'll be doing the annual appointments, and then one in 2023. So we would recommend that you would appoint him to the unexpired term for 2023. And that way he's got a full year before he, will be reappointed. If we can rope him into staying for another 2 years.
I so move.
So we have a motion and
A second.
did I hear a second and a second? Mr. Fitch, did you want to say anything? Just say, please vote for me. Not now. Okay. Hey, smart man. Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the thing. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So, Caitlin, you have a new Parks member. So we appreciate your efforts. Okay, we're moving now into future agenda items. And let me remind you that it helps the city if you submit your items by 5 p.m. on the Wednesday of the week before the council meeting. Not 100% required, but it sure would be nice on the thing. So anybody got any future agenda items? Of course, Ashley.
I know. I'm about what's my term. So lights in Bywell, street lights in Bywell. That was one of them. Got a couple other ones. I'll email you, but streets in Bywell. Street lights in Bywell. Okay. Sorry, not street. Street lights. I'm ready to get out of here. Street lights in Bywell.
Okay, street, I mean, what specifically?
Yeah, on the poles. So street lights on the poles. Don't know how to say it, but. Yes. So I don't know if that goes through us and then working with CoServe. I don't know.
Well,
yes.
I'll
talk.
talk.
Know, so we'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
I was out visiting one of the neighbors out there.
Okay. Anyone, Elaine? Oh, hey, this is completely, I was going to wait till we closed, but it may be a stampede. There's fresh homemade cupcakes and goodies. Please don't leave without taking some with you. And Miss Priest swears they're good. She put them all together.
Case tested them.
No, excellent. They're good. Okay. Fine. So we are, do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. Anybody opposed? Hey, we should be able to do this more often, this quickly.
I take it I never got any volume.
Corbin, I can still hear you, but I sent a message.
I can hear you too. Yeah, I can hear Kathy and I can hear the lawyer as well. I don't think you made it on the. I don't think you made it to the city hall up there, community center, whatever meeting.
We can hear amongst ourselves, but we weren't allowed to speak in the council meeting. So
there you go. Hey, there you go. Well, you have a wonderful Easter
that we have in place.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.
You better get off my property. Don't give me the tone. What's the word? And I respect that, man. Tommy went to Chisholm.
Oh, no. Well, the sun goes down and it's cold.
No, I can't hear you. It's all parts and Right away.
I know they're good. Actually, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with together. Okay, so you know what? Let's go with 11, 10. I'm not that old. Won't move. It's exactly what it is. You know that. Yeah, I told Tom. Well, I told you. I didn't let you talk about now. You too? Ron?